Hi, today we're going to be reviewing Rock Your Role as a Salesforce Admin by Jodi Hrbek. As you can see from my copy of the book here, it's jam-packed full of information. I took a lot of notes and learnt a lot of stuff. The book's full of experience, tips, tricks, questions, talk tracks, and just generally good information that I'm sure you're going to love. So without further ado, let's dive on in to our review of Rock Your Role as a Salesforce Admin. I don't think it will be a great shock to learn that this book is targeted squarely at Salesforce administrators of all shapes and sizes. The book meets that audience really well, and if you're a new admin or a seasoned veteran, the book's going to have some tips and tricks that will make your work better. It's full of great information, and if you're a developer or an architect or a consultant, I'd honestly also recommend you get the book. There's lots of experience, advice and wisdom in there that Jodi gives that isn't just necessarily going to help you as an admin, but is really just good all-round practical advice. So the book meets the target audience really well, but I would say again, if you're involved in any sort of role in the Salesforce ecosystem where you're going to be talking to end users and customers, this book's going to have some information, some ideas and some tips to help you improve at your job. Jodi has split the book into two sections. Section 1 is called Creating Value and a Raving Fan Base, and Section 2 is called Calming the Chaos. The overall structure works really well and allows you to have the first section really diving deep into practical advice, focused on delivery, problem solving and tips and tricks really to help you deal with what I'm going to call like the nuts and bolts of the role, with the second section then focused more on how to help you manage your workload, manage your stakeholders and deliver more effectively. So I suppose you could call it kind of a practical first section and then a more kind of abstract second section on kind of project management area of the role. The thing that I really like within each chapter is that there's just a ton of tips and tricks and specific recommendations. These are ones that you can go away and implement straight away, whether it's some questions to use in a workshop, some questions to ask around a specific setup feature or piece of functionality, and there's just lots of great lists of features that you might not even have thought of. For example, in one chapter I came across there was 10 quick wins that you could just look at. Some of them are ones that I know I implement every time, and others are like ones that I just hadn't thought about for a while. So it's really good, and I don't think I've ever come across a book so far. I know I have a bunch of others to read, but this is probably the best book I've read in terms of the volume of specific recommendations and tips you can take and implement in your day-to-day role. So let's have a look at each section in more detail. The first section of the book focuses on creating value for your users and turning them into a super fans, raving fan base for you that really appreciates the work you do and is your biggest kind of set of fans out there, sharing all the good work you're doing with everyone. The first note I made in the first chapter was that Jodi's focus on the mindset of ownership and quality to turn your users and stakeholders into fans reminds me of the concepts covered in the books So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport and Superfans by Pat Flynn. I've linked to both books in the description below if you want to find out more, but Jodi really encompasses the core themes and core understandings of both of those books in this first section. And if you're looking to dive into more about how you can create superfans and turn people into fans, or how you can kind of focus on your work to ensure that you're so good people can't ignore you, I really recommend those books as further reading. The section dives deep into how you can ensure that you deliver so well for your customers, so well for your end users, that they become fans of yours and then they rave about your work, and how the key to doing that is to have an ownership mindset, a mindset where you own the work, own the system, and really take control of things rather than just seeing it as a job or a set of tasks to do. One of the key things about this is going to be knowing your company and its business processes, knowing your org, so how that's all put together, the different flows, business processes, features, licenses and everything else in there. Understanding the different teams that you work with and understanding that your work needs to answer the why behind a request. It's not just going to be a checkbox of simply doing something, but you need to dig deeper to understand what people are really asking for, why it's been done that way. And this will not only save you work in the long run and help ensure that you're delivering the right system, but also ensures that you have a proper understanding of how the organization works. In my time as a consultant, one of the biggest things I used to try and do was really sit down with customers and ensure that I understood their business processes and the nature of their business as well as they did. So there was one organization I worked with where, after working with them for about 2 years, I was actually more of an expert on how their business functioned and how it was put together than some of their internal team that had been there a lot longer, because I'd really spent time just focusing in and diving deep on those processes so that I could implement them properly. Some particular highlights for me in this section were SABWA, that's Salesforce Administration by Walking Around. So that's seeing what people are doing in their day-to-day job, listening to them, listening to what their pain points are as you're working around and looking at them, and seeing how you can help them. A good discussion of the status quo bias, or people's resistance to change. There's a really good discussion on simplicity of building versus good governance. Salesforce is a fantastic platform. It means you can do a lot with a little. It means that you can make changes rapidly, but you have to remember, and Jodi points this out, that you're still building software. You still need to make sure you've got the right level of documentation, governance, control, and management in there to, not have things going too crazy. And also remembering that the value that you bring is proportionate to the knowledge that you have about the company and how it operates. You cannot deliver a great solution for a company if you don't understand how that company operates and why it's doing that thing. At the end of this section, Jodi wraps up with her 6 pro ways to communicate like a Salesforce pro. I'm not going to list them out here and ruin them. It's really worth you going away and reading this book and finding it, but they were a really good, succinct way to finish the section, just to reiterate the content and give you a short, sharp list. And it makes you ready to move on to section 2, Calm the Chaos. Section 2 focuses on calming the chaos in your delivery. Whenever you're delivering a Salesforce solution, whether as an internal admin or an external consultant, it can feel like being caught in the middle of a storm. There's competing requirements, new requests coming in, competing priorities, deadlines, and you've got to somehow manage all of that to get things done. One of the great things about Salesforce is that it is really quick and easy to make changes, add new fields, change layouts, etc., etc. But that then can set an expectation. I think that Salesforce sometimes set that expectation themselves when they're selling, that everything's really quick and easy to change, and that doesn't really have the right level of governance and can often cause issues when you're trying to manage and deliver solutions. As an internal admin, you're going to have both long-term solutions you're trying to implement and deliver to help the organization in the future. So you might be delivering a custom support experience where people can raise cases, see knowledge articles, talk to a chatbot, all of these things. But equally, you've still got your day job where you've got people saying, I've forgotten my password, can you reset it? I need access to this report. I need just this checkbox adding real quick. You've got all of these competing requirements coming in that you've still got to deal with. And so this section of the book really helps you understand how to manage a delivery schedule, manage those incoming requests, prioritize things, and just calm the madness down so that you can deliver most effectively. And kind of ties back into section 1 where you can ensure that you are setting expectations and making people happy with what you're delivering. The first chapter of this section includes one of the best lines I've read in any IT book, and it's the one thing that I was going to say, if you take one sentence away from this book, this should be it. There's lots of sentences you should take away from this book, but this would be kind of my favorite one, and that is that processes and procedures provide protection. This single sentence encompasses how you should really think about managing delivery, managing requests, managing solution builds. Have some processes, have some procedures in place, make people follow them, and it will protect you and the end users from unexpected consequences. Simple systems like a ticketing system, making sure that if people want to request, they don't just come over to your desk and say, hi Paul, can you add this report and add this field and change these things? That they submit it properly so that it's visible to everyone how much work you have to deal with. It's visible to everyone where in the process their work is, and it's also visible what the workload is and how it needs to be managed effectively. There are some real key considerations in this section that you should think about, such as how to manage your workload, how to include a post-launch warranty for fixes, and how to make sure that is a fixed window, handling scope creep from people who want to make changes to the system, including prioritization, ascertaining whether something is actually a high priority or whether something is just a sort of side request, and also whether things are a should have or a could have requirement. We often get people that come to us with sort of everything they might like, and how to help people understand things in terms of a level of importance and urgency so that we can deliver them effectively. Jodi ends this section with 5 key critical principles that you should have and you should understand. And I think these are really important. They are that there will always be more to do. Never forget that there is always going to be more work you can be doing. You can always sit down and work a little bit longer. You can always tidy up some data, always add some extra fields, always rearrange the page layout, always do something, always add more documentation. So understand that and ensure that you don't let that drive you mad. Ensure that you don't end up spending too much time on things just because you can always spend more time on things. Remember that your vacations are not optional. I have personally, worked in many organizations where I've seen individuals, and truth be told, I've probably been somewhat guilty of this myself when I was younger, of putting off things that are personal and important to help get something delivered. And it's not healthy, it's not sustainable. It's very easy for myself or Jodi or someone who's been doing this for a number of years to sit there and tell people that, but it is really important. Remember that your vacations are extremely important. Take some time off. They are not optional, and you need that time for you to be healthy and for you to approach your work properly. Number 3 is don't get hung up on mistakes. We all make mistakes. I have made a million. I have had projects that have gone bad. I have had deliveries that have not been as good as I wanted to. One of my very first jobs in IT, I deleted a production database. Thankfully, there was a hot backup, but I deleted a production database. It happens, we make mistakes. This is why having those processes and procedures can help avoid having those mistakes, but don't get hung up on them. Learn from them, improve because of them, but remember that everyone makes mistakes and it's not the end of the world. Hopefully they won't be deleting a production database, but everyone makes mistakes. Don't get hung up on them. Just learn from them and move forward. Number 4 is to put your hand down if you don't feel like it, or if you feel like you need to put your hand down. We live in a world where people, and because of the internet, because of sometimes truthfully, because of people like myself on LinkedIn saying, this is what you should be doing, this is how you should be focusing on different things, you should get involved in all these different groups and everything else, that you often feel like you have to have your hand up to volunteer. You don't. If you are at capacity or feel like you don't have the extra capacity to do things, do you know what? If you're at 80-90% capacity and you don't feel you can take something else on, don't. Remember that it's important for you to have a comfortable work-life balance, to not overstretch yourself, and you don't have to do all of the things all of the time. Certain things you can come back to later and do another time. So if it's signing up for a mentorship program, if it's signing up to support new starters in your organization, if it's running some charity portion of the organization, or whatever it might be, if it's being on an extra board for employees, whatever it might be, you don't have to do it. So remember, you don't have to sign up for things if you don't feel like you have the capacity to, or you don't have the space to. And the final thing is to lean into the Ohana. The Salesforce community, or the Salesforce Ohana as it's known, is a great thing. I have been very, very lucky to have made some very good friends through the community that I've known for years now, some of whom have been to my wedding and I've been to their weddings, and I've met families, and I've got some really good lifelong friends through the community. I would say that going to the community on the Ohana to get help and advice is a great thing to do, whether it's a user group, a developer group, it's going through one of the boards, it's joining one of the many small communities on the side that's starting up, it's following people online to see what their tips are, and it's just reaching out to people. It's a great way for you to get feedback, especially if you are a solo admin in an org by yourselves. Never feel like you can't reach out to people just to ask, can I have, they don't got 20 minutes free just for me to run a problem through. I have this plush puppy on my desk here. This is Scooby. I talk to Scooby when I'm stuck on a problem, because often just the act of saying things out loud helps you get it solved. So don't be afraid to reach out to people in the community, or just to ask the community, is there someone there who's got half an hour? Is there someone there who's done this before? Has anyone used this before? And you'll get some great advice on there. Jodi discusses all of these in more detail. I wholeheartedly agree with all of these kind of points that I've just listed out. And they're a great way, in my mind, to end the book and give yourself a handy reminder that after all of the other great content about delivery, there are some key non-negotiables that are far more personally focused, I think, that you need to kind of be aware of, and that will actually make you really better than perhaps some of the other items that are more technical focused. So it's a great way to wrap up the book, and I think a really good reminder to everyone to focus on the important things. In summary, I really enjoyed this book. It's one of the books that I think I've probably taken the most away from, despite the fact, truth be told, I wasn't really the target audience as an admin, but there's so much good information in there. You can tell that Jodi's been doing this for a long time and really has a great wealth of experience in there. If you are a Salesforce admin, without a shadow of a doubt, go look at the link in the description below, click that, go and buy the book. You just need this book. If you're a consultant or an architect or a developer, and if you're working with end users or customers, I just highly recommend this book in general. Honestly, it's one of the most useful books I've read in just thinking about how you manage the process around working with Salesforce. And Salesforce is kind of different to a lot of other platforms in that there is a lot more grey between the roles. You can be an admin and an architect really at the same time. You can be a consultant and an admin at the same time in some instances. So if you are in any of those sorts of roles, I'd recommend going out to say there's a link in the description, go out and buy this book. As you can see, I've earmarked a ton in there. I'm sure you'll learn a ton of other things as well to help you improve the way you work and create some fans about the work you're doing as well to give you that stability. I want to say thank you to Jodi for writing this book, and thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. If you want to ensure you don't miss out on any of the other book reviews, we're currently reading Salesforce DevOps for Architects. That'll be our next review. Make sure to hit subscribe, make sure to hit the bell. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you've got any feedback, please leave it in a comment below. It all helps. If there's anything you'd like to see in particular, please let me know in the comments below. And I'd love to hear what you thought of the book. Have you read Jodi's book? If so, what did you think about it? What was good? What would you like to have read more about? What have been your experiences? Links to everything are in the description below. Thank you so much. And until the next time, happy trails.